everyone. This is Tammy Morrison, and I'm coming on here for the Black Speakers Network Spotlight. Just a minute, let me share this out into the community. Thank you all for joining me. Alrighty. So, how is everyone doing today? My name is Tammy Morrison, and I'm a member of the Black Speakers Network, a wife, a mother, and a grandmother, and a woman of color. I've been a nurse for over 20 years. I am a resilience coach and consultant, and I use my natural intuitive gifts to help visionaries to navigate the trials of life and overcome negative beliefs and heal on a molecular level. My superpower is helping women see the gifts and what God has already put inside of them. I am the author of the #1 best-selling anthology, Unchain Me Mama, as well as my latest book, Walking Away. I'm also a contributing writer to Spirit Biz magazine and have articles on Thrive Global, Medium, and Huffington Post. I also have a podcast, Straight Outta Savannah, Talking with Tammy, currently on YouTube and SoundCloud, where I interview people who are changing the planet. I chose this topic because, of course, I wanted to do a shameless plug of my new book, Walking Away, but also because I feel it is so important, especially in the world circumstances that we find ourselves in at this time. This pandemic, as well as the revolution that we are in, makes this an important topic to share. As I pondered how to best deliver this message, I couldn't help but consider my own reasons for sharing my story. And thank you so much for whoever's joining. So, I knew quite a while ago that I had work to do in the share, because even as I prayed in the midst of some difficult circumstances in my life, God always assured me that I wasn't going through these things just for me. Spirit assured me that people would be blessed by my sharing. And so, as I've grown in my life and as I've gone different places, as I've gone to different situations and circumstances, the sharing always was something that came a little easy to me. Not today, I'm a little nervous, but it always came a little easy to me because I knew that I was called to do it. I knew that the things that happened in my life and all the different situations, circumstances that happened were not just for me, because I had that assurance from Spirit that I was to share these things in order to help other people. Because when you're in the midst of crisis, when you're in the midst of going through, it's so difficult to acknowledge and know that you're not the only one. There are times when we are in the middle of stuff and we are so alone. We feel so alone. And the point of that is, as we begin to get over those things and as we begin to navigate those hills and those valleys, because, tell the truth, we all have hills and valleys. And so as we begin to navigate those things, and we begin to get on the other side of it, it makes it so much easier to be able to share and be able to be in a place where you can be a deliverer in a sense, because you are a person that can help other people that are in situations similar to yours, or even possibly even the same situation, to help them to get through and to navigate these places. And so as I commune with Spirit and as I begin to share my story, even before writing the book was a culmination of 20 years of things that I dealt with. And it was so freeing, and it caused me such great joy. Even after I wrote it, I have to say that, because during the writing of it, it took me back to those places. And so it was a little difficult to do that. But there was so much power in that. So much power. I mean, I began to see things in a whole new light, in a whole different light. And I began to make shifts in my life that I'm sure that if I hadn't done that, I probably wouldn't have made those shifts in that way. Now, that's not to say that you can't make shifts without sharing your story, but that's another live. Today, we're talking about the power in sharing your story. And so, as you see your story and as you begin to share it, you have no choice but to step out. Because as you share your story, the more people begin to listen to what it is that you have to say. And when you know that you have something to say, there's power just simply in that. There's the power. However, what I'm talking about today and what I'm sharing today are the 3 tools that emerge in sharing my story. And I hope that it's something that you will consider and think about as you share your story. So, of the 3 tools that I'm going to share today, the first thing that gives power in the sharing is the blessing in it. Not only for me or you as you share your story, and for others. Just taking the time to think about it, taking the time to formulate a plan, taking the time to write it down, taking the time to unpack the trauma was a blessing for me. A lot of times as Black people, we don't always have the luxury to indulge in self-care. Or I should correctly say that we don't deem it important enough to pursue in the big scheme of our life, to seek it out. So that was another thing that in unpacking the trauma, the self-care piece became evident. It became time to explore that. It became time to decide that I was important enough to have self-care. Oftentimes we don't realize that it's an important piece to take time out to love on ourselves. And that is essentially what the self-care piece is. It's loving on yourself, doing the things for yourself that make you happy, doing the things for yourself that prolong your life, doing the things for yourself that you want to do. So as we do that, we will begin to get clarity on the things that we need to share. So I was no different than many of you. I thought that life had dealt me so many lemons that it was impossible to make it all lemonade. I know there are many people and experiences that drive them to think this way. And this was another reason why I was propelled to share my story. Because I knew that there were so many people that were in the way that I was, that were in need of a total mindset shift. And that is one of the things that was a blessing in sharing this story. In ways that I didn't quite understand, I craved to share. Because although I play an extrovert on Facebook, in myself, I'm an introvert. I love my own company. I'm good by myself. I know so many people are surprised when I say that because they see me on Facebook doing lives and doing intuitive guiding and stuff like that. And they say, oh my God, I just love her spirit. And I thank you for that and I appreciate it. However, I am in myself an introvert. Even when I felt comfortable enough to share some of my story with people, I could see the compassion in their eyes and also the understanding of why I am the tough, strong-minded individual that I have become. This let me know that it is truly a blessing to share and help folk to know that they are not alone. Because I believe that that is one of the worst things when we're going through crisis, situation, circumstances, is the feeling of being alone. And working in mental health as I have, I know that that feeling is one of the main things that contributes to people committing suicide. Now, I was never a person that was interested in that. I always knew that there was a rainbow and there was something around the corner that was there as long as I could get through to it. That was my thinking. And I know that there are a lot of people that think that way. However, I understand that, this type of these circumstances and grief and things that you deal with in your life can cause you to think that it's better to just take your life. And I do understand that. So that is another thing that I believe, the blessing in the sharing. Because as you share and as you begin to realize and see that other people have trauma and other people go through things as well, and you're not alone, then you feel like maybe you can make it. So even when I packed in the blessing was the healing that came as I shared and wrote my story. Because what I learned is that the more I wrote and read and reread the story, it became just that, a story. And that took away so much of the sadness, the grief, all the things that you feel in the midst of going through circumstances and situations. And the truth is, when you're writing it, it's like you go back through it again. You feel that thing. And so the more I read it, shared it, wrote it, it just became a story. And so I was able to completely be able to help other people in the midst of their stories. So the healing piece was a gift in the garbage scenario. As I shared the story and unpacked trauma that I had long suppressed, things came up in the shadows that I had to deal with. The things that I couldn't share with even the closest people in my life came to the surface. I don't know if you've had that problem, but there are things that you keep inside and you don't share even with the closest people in your life, even with the people that you know love you, the people that you know got your back, the people that you know are on your side. Even those people you don't feel comfortable enough to share because you have this shame that you feel. You have this guilt that you feel. And you are in so much pain. And so I felt those things. And so I didn't share a lot of things with the closest people to me. And I'm a person that keeps a small circle. So I had a few people that were close to me. And very few of them actually had a bird's eye view into a lot of the things that I dealt with. And so as you begin to get out of that place, the healing occurs because the things that you feel ashamed to admit, the things that you feel judged about, you had to deal with the very framework. And I had to deal with this very framework of my being. And I began to demand healing within myself. And so the healing piece to me is so vital. It is so vital because as you begin to, and this is what I did, connect with my spiritual team and go on what I refer to as a healing binge. I had to learn and grow to step into all that God has for me. Sharing my story at first with just myself because I don't know about you, but I had to stop lying to myself about what it was and take my life back. Because so many times when we are in the middle of things that we are feeling ashamed about, things that we do not want to admit, because, truth be told, even if you don't lie, you lie. You lie to yourself. You tell yourself that it's okay and it's not okay. I'm good and you're not good. And so as you begin to unpack these things and as you begin to step into the healing and begin to learn what it's going to take for you and you share your story, that's a part of it. It's like, oh my God. It's like the light comes on. And for those of us that grew up in the 80s, like I did, we want our life to look like The Cosby Show because that was what we saw and that was what we identified with as being Black people. And so when we watched The Cosby Show, we were proud that some of us had arrived and so many of us aspired to be just like Cliff and Claire, minus some of those kids because that was just too many, in my opinion. So, but we wanted to be just like Cliff and Claire. We saw that. They had the good jobs, and they had, the beautiful place, and they had, the kids. They got into disagreements, but there was no fighting, no major arguing, none of that stuff. It was just almost perfect. And I was no different. Although I knew it was TV, although I knew that, nobody could aspire to that, nobody could achieve that, I should say. We still wanted to emulate that, and I did. I was no different. Black people wanted to emulate that. We loved the Cosbys. We loved, Cliff and Claire Huxtable and all the Huxtable children, and Sandra and Elvin, and we loved all of them. We loved the parents. We loved, Hillman College. We loved all those things, and it gave us a sense of almost security that we could get there. And then the other part of it was, what if we weren't them? What if we didn't get there? What if we did not achieve that goal? And so to leave that design was crucial in the healing, and for me to accept myself for all of me and not just the pretty parts, because that is the point. Because we can all accept the pretty parts. We can all accept, things that we like to see, the good testimonies, as we would say. I came full circle with the good, the bad, and the ugly, and took great strides to be a person that I could be proud of. Because in short, as you are healing and as you're going through these desires and these designs, you begin to see all of you, and you're not always proud of that. So for me, I dug deep in prayer, meditation, healing journeys, and opening my gifts and learning healing modalities that I can use to help myself and others. When I made the decision to write the book and share my story, I stepped into the last tool I want to give you on this journey, and that is forgiveness. Many people think forgiveness is a fairy tale. Forgiveness is defined by psychologists as a conscious, deliberate decision to release feelings of resentment or vengeance toward a person or group who has harmed you, regardless of whether they actually deserve your forgiveness. Oftentimes, folks say we need to forgive, and then they do the opposite. For me, I thought I was a forgiveness queen, because I truly believe that it's better to forgive, and it's always better to forgive quickly. And so I have lived my life in that way, and so I don't hold a lot. I don't hold things. I just really don't believe in it, and I believe that it's a healthy way to live, and I encourage everyone else to do that as well. However, the person that it took me the longest to forgive was myself, because I truly believe that life is too short to have unforgiveness in your heart. And I've seen the devastation that unforgiveness causes in the body on a physical level, as well as in the mind on a mental, emotional, and spiritual level. However, there is that one person in the whole scenario, as I said before, that we often forget to forgive. That person is ourselves. When we don't forgive ourselves, energetically, we hold ourselves hostage to certain situations that we have forgiven every other party involved. And I know that I'm not the only person that has done that and that feels this way. So as I began to share this story, as I began to complete and write this story, I thought about that. It took me to that place where I know that I needed to forgive myself, because all the people that were involved in the different situations that I have healed in my life, I've forgiven them, and they're off the hook for me. And I think about this, and I share, maybe we don't think that we need to forgive ourselves because we don't feel like we did anything. And so as we begin to write this story, hey, Hi, Brian. Thank you for joining. As we begin to write these stories and as we begin to go through this healing journey with ourselves, and as we begin to step into the forgiveness piece, as we begin to step there. And this thing is not like, to me, it took time. It wasn't like okay, I forgive myself. It wasn't that. It was almost a daily or a weekly, communing with myself to check in and see where I was on that journey. And so in the healing piece, there are so many things that we unpack and realize that we are holding ourselves hostage simply because we feel bad for even allowing ourselves in that situation in the first place. For me, as I begin to share my story, I realized that I have forgiven all the people in my life that I felt wronged me in some way, and it didn't have to be big ways. Because as I said in the healing journey, I uncovered these things that I had hidden away and buried. And oftentimes, that is a coping mechanism that we use. And it's gone back really in history, to be honest, for people of color, because of all the things and the trauma that we have had to deal with, and because of all the ways that we have had to hide who we were, hide our trauma, hide our pain, hide our shame, hide our guilt. These are things that we have typically and historically hidden from everyone and also from ourselves in the shame. And so we pack these things away. So as I was able to uncover these buried treasures and pick them up and shake them off and realize that, hey, I have to heal in this time and I need to share. And a part of the healing is the forgiveness piece. So as I was able to see the results of that, however, something was missing. There were still pieces of unforgiveness floating in my awareness. As I began to channel with my spiritual team, the fact that I had not forgiven myself in the parts of my life that I felt ashamed about and the pieces that I continued to hold against me and therefore continued to hinder the big dreams that I had for my life. Now there's the other piece. As we begin to forgive, then we will begin to open up spiritually and we'll begin to be able to see those big dreams that we are aspiring to begin to come together. The pieces begin to come together. And so when I took the direction and the time to forgive myself, things began to shift in my life in a major way. It helped me to open up in a way that I had never done before. And I am just so excited about that. And so today, I wanted to encourage you to consider writing your story, because your story is not only just for you, it's for other people, so that they can begin to heal in ways that they didn't know that they could. I encourage you to think about it, consider it. Even as you are thinking about it, things will begin to open up for you. Consider what it would mean to unpack the traumas neatly tucked in your story and get the blessing, healing, and forgiveness that you will find as you do. Because these things are there for us. Now, oftentimes we don't realize that these things are there for us, and we realize and don't know how to get it. One way that we can do this is to begin to share our story. Share your story, even if you just speak it and share it. Share it, speak it, write it, but let other people in. Let other people see that they are not alone in unpacking the trauma, in all the craziness that life sometimes brings us. Think about the people who will be blessed as you share your story, and let them know that they are not alone and that there is a power in the sharing of your story. So I'm just so grateful for this opportunity to present this to you today. And I want to thank and acknowledge Brian J. Olds and the Black Speakers Network for this spotlight opportunity. I want to invite you to connect to Black Speakers Network at www.blackspeakersnetwork.com. I'm so grateful because this is something that I have known that I wanted to do, and knew that I was being guided to do. However, for me, I just decided to take this leap. And this was a leap because, you guys, I'm so nervous. However, I'm sure that someone watching is being blessed, because that is why we are all here on this planet. And I, for one, realize that is why we're here. And so I have decided to take up that mantle and be the blessing that I'm supposed to be. So if sharing my story and being vulnerable, and y'all, the name of my story is Walking Away, and it is so vulnerable. I was amazed when I finished writing it in the vulnerability that was there in that story. So it's coming out. Y'all watch for it and make sure you get a copy. So again, thank you so much, Brian, for this opportunity, for this spotlight opportunity in the Black Speakers Network. And I'm so gracious to just be able to come on here with so many amazing people, speakers that are, doing fabulous, awesome things. So I just want to thank you for joining me, the live and the replay viewers. And make sure you comment replay, #replay, so that I can respond to you later as you come on. And make sure you have a wonderful rest of your Wednesday. So if there are any questions, if I can see comments, let me see if I can see comments, because I haven't seen any. Okay. Any questions? Okay, so I do not see any questions, and I am so excited for this talk. However, I'm going to pop off now. Thank you so much, Brian. Thank you so much, Black Speakers Network, and everyone that has watched, everyone that will watch. Thank you so much for watching. And again, I want to encourage everyone to share your story. Share your story, because not only is it healing for you, but it's healing for other people, and it also allows people time to realize that they're not alone. And that's so important, especially in this time and in this place with this coronavirus pandemic and the revolution that we are experiencing at this time. It's so important for people not to feel alone. So thank you so much for allowing me this space, and you guys have a wonderful day. Bye now.